Okay. So shall I start now?
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay. So Hari Om Tat Sat. Sitting quietly. Let us just chant the mantras. Om and Hreem. Breathing in with Om silently, breathing out Hreem. Breathing in silently Om. Breathing out Hreem. Breathe in. Hreem. Hari Om Tat Sat. It's a long time since I talked, so if my words don't come through, you'll have to forgive me. So we are coming to Ekadashi today. Today is a very special Ekadashi. It's called the Deva Shayani Ekadashi, and I'll tell you as we go along why it is called that and what is the import of it. So what I'm going to tell you first is I'll divide it into three divisions. First is the Ekadashi itself, the story of Ekadashi. Then the second part will be about what is Ekadashi, who's the deity of Ekadashi. And the third one will be about the time frame of why it's so important and why Devashayani means that the devas go to sleep, a particular deva specifically today, and wakes up on Prabodhini Ekadashi, which is 4 months from now, and somewhere around, what's it, July, August, September, October, November 3rd or something like that. So we'll know it when we come to that. So here is the story, is from the Padma Purana. And in the Padma Purana, the sage Jaimini is talking to Bhagavan Vyasa, and Vyasa is giving the story. Now you must remember that Vyasa, they have specifically called him here Bhagavan Vyasa, not Vyasa Maharishi, because Vyasa was actually an avatar or a portion of Bhagavan, the highest supreme one. He had dissolved into that supreme, and the supreme was talking through him. And so to that extent, he had the consciousness of Bhagavan in him. This is the same Vyasa who codified the Vedas and then who wrote all the Puranas. So here Jaimini is asking him, he said, you have told me about the purity of the Ganges. You told me about donating grain and water to the world, worshipping Vishnu. You discussed about drinking water after washing the feet of holy men. All these are purificatory actions. He said, now I want to know the benefits of fasting on Ekadashi and about the appearance of Ekadashi. When does Ekadashi take birth? Now you see, then he says, from when did she appear? Who's the supreme deity of Ekadashi? Now here, Ekadashi, when you say from whom and when did she appear, you're talking of Ekadashi as if it's a woman. From our point of view, Ekadashi, the 11th day of the moon, is time. It's just time for us. You look at the clock or you look at the calendar and say, okay, today is the 11th day of the waxing or waning moon. And today is Ekadashi. It's just time. We think of it as like something to do with the clock. But here, when they are saying when was Ekadashi born? when was she born? That's the word that is said. So what they are meaning, they're specifically implying is that what we call a thing like time, like a clock, like a calendar, in the early days, the people of that time, not only the rishis, not only the sages and saints, but even the normal people of that time, they have been um, people who have been in touch with nature and felt the pulse beat and the vibration of nature, and they synchronized with nature. So they didn't have clocks to see the time. They didn't have calendars to look at whether it was second or third or fourth. They just knew much more subtly about the movement of the sun, the movement of the grass growing, the movement of the birds, the waves, the air, the wind, and with all that, they synchronized with the vibrations around them, life around them, and they realized that they were part of the same one prana. So when they are asking, when was she born, Jaimini is asking Vyasa Maharshi, is also referring to the fact that what you think of just as just an energy or a time, a portion of the sun's movement, they are talking of it as a dynamic energy. Because you see, in one of the main things that is said in the Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, I am time. In other words, time is the first and the most important of the manifestation of the Supreme Consciousness. Everything is manifested according to time, according to that energy which we call time, and which in the Shastras is called the Devi, the mother. Now, when he is asking this, Vyasa says, let me tell you a story about Ekadashi, how she was born. But actually, only Lord Narayana can give you all the answers perfectly. Why? Because Narayana is associated with Ekadashi. Now, Narayana is Bhagavan here in this context. And so is Vyasa Maharshi. He is called Bhagavan Vishnu. So what he is saying is, I'm still just a fraction of the Supreme. I cannot tell you the whole thing about her because she is beyond explanation and words. But I'll give you a brief idea of what happened. So then he says, in the beginning of material creation, when the whole manifestation came into life, the Supreme Being, the Supreme Consciousness, created all moving and non-moving living entities. What are the moving and the non-moving entities? Moving entities are like birds, animals, the air, water. Unmoving are things like what you would consider a table or a stone. These things are, they are not mobile, but they are moving inside themselves with certain vibrations and energy pathways. So he says, when the Supreme Being created all this, and out of what did he create them? Out of the Pancha Mahabhutas. Pancha Mahabhutas are the space, air, fire, water, earth. These are the five materials out of which the material world is made up of, not the divinity, the material world. And these are called the five gross elements. And in the process, he created human beings also. Now, the initial creation of human beings was not very perfect. We are still not perfect. Because if you are perfect, then you dissolve into perfection, which is only the Supreme Consciousness. Everything else is imperfect because everything else is constantly moving and changing and evolving, never being the same from one moment to the other. So when he says that it was not perfect, you can remember, if some of you, many of you know the Chandi part, in which as soon as Brahma starts creating, they say, out of the wax of Vishnu's ears, two demons come out. Madhu and Kaitaba. Now, what are these demons that come out? These demons come out from the wax of Vishnu's ears. These descriptions are very, very important because they are always referring to something specific. So when they say that something came out of the wax of Vishnu's ears, when you have wax in your ears, what happens? You don't hear properly. You don't hear clearly. So they're telling you that it's very important to be able to listen to the divine vibrations. You can see even in an ordinary family, supposing the parents have gone out and they tell the child, I'll be back by 6 o'clock. And they arrive at, say, 8 o'clock. The child will look at the parents and, where did you go? So what are they saying actually? The child is saying, he's not asking to know where you went, whether you went to Birla Mandir or whether you went to the office. When he says, where did you go? This child is actually saying, why did you leave me alone? So when somebody asks you a question, you have to listen carefully to know what are they saying. It's not in the words, but it's a body language, it's a thought, it's a tuning in with the other person's distress or happiness or whatever. Then only we really know what they are saying. So they are giving us here the importance, if you want to know more about this energy, you have to be able to listen, not just hear. That is why you'll see Jesus also will say, if you have ears to hear, then listen. So the reason is this, that very often we hear something, but we misinterpret it, and we misinterpret it because of our own conditioning of our mind, of something that the mind has been used to by thinking of something habitually, then that becomes a habit. So sometimes people will say you have to think negative, and the person says, yes, you have to think negative, but they are not able to think negative, positive, sorry. They continuously think negative because it's a habit. And when you're thinking negative, you don't see anything good coming to you at all. You don't even feel good about yourself. So this is why Swamiji always says Manaprasad, because if you're positive, you'll find a lot of good happening to you, even in the difficult situations in life. So one is the importance of the vibrations of communication, and for which the Shruti, that is the Shanti, one of the Shanti parts will say, Bhadram Karne Vishunayama Deva. That is, oh Lord, let me hear all that is auspicious. So even if somebody says there is a tree fell on something and the car broke or something, the person who has a car, if he is very positive, he'll say, that's okay, thank God I was not in it, thank God my children were not in it. He wouldn't say this fellow didn't cut the tree down and see what happened to my car, I'm losing my insurance or whatever it is, which is a fact. But the point is your priority can be given to something positive, because when you do something positive, the whole universe will join to bring you something positive. If you're thinking something negative, the whole universe will join to give you a surplus of negativity. If you're afraid, the whole universe will join together to give you scary things. So it all depends upon what we are on the inside. And that is why these value systems and knowing the larger part of who we are gives us um, a chance to move into such vibrations that are of a higher order. So in the Upanishad, we are told that whenever you are listening to a guru as a sishya anywhere, and we always listen to Swamiji giving satsangs, other great souls giving satsangs, but what are we doing? We are told first you have Shravana, listening, Manana, reflecting, chewing it to see what is it that it means. Is it like this? Is it like that? And then Nididhyasana, that is, you bring it to yourself. Now, if I were in that situation, how would I handle this? Why would I handle it like this? Why is it the other person is handling it differently? So in the process, this great churning of the mind happens. And when this great churning happens, not only do you understand the mind, then you become more positive because you realize that the mind is um, constantly moving. It's never in the same place. It's not consistent. It's not steady. And when you know that and you realize that maybe you cannot always do much about it, but you can watch it. And in that watching, a certain amount of vairagya comes into you. And when vairagya comes, slowly over a period of time, you won't react to every sound that you hear, every sentence that is spoken to you, every mood that is coming your way from somebody else, whether somebody is praising you or somebody is being nasty to you. It won't make a difference because that is his mind and your mind. And you're not getting into the mind, you're moving into the nididhyasana, and from there, through the element of vairagya, when you realize it's only his mind, it doesn't mean anything to me, then slowly you will reach a point where you will be cut off from the mind. The mind will just sit still. Because the mind will say, okay, she's not interested in me anymore, so let me have a break. So this is the meaning of this where he says, uh, only Narayana can tell you this, Lord Narayana. And I will try and say something, he says, just a little bit in brief, so that you will understand. But he gives more than brief, actually. So what does he say? When the people, the human beings were created, they were not perfect because those vibrations were not perfect. And when vibrations are not perfect, then they will create distorted forms of body, mind, thoughts, feelings, everything. So that is why we also talk about chanting the Omkar, chanting mantras, Bija mantras for certain specific reasons, because by chanting, we are trying to tune in with those cosmic vibrations that bring you good and auspiciousness. Okay. Now, then the other thing is, when the created human beings were not perfect, they started, you know what imperfection means? It leads into a chaos over a period of time. It leads to distortion. It leads to um, missing a particular way of doing things, going things. So this made the creator, here in this case, they say it's Vishnu. And Vishnu is wondering now, what shall I do? These are all my children. I am the one who's created them. And they are simply going haywire. So I should get somebody to control them. So out of himself, he makes all the sins. Now remember, when they're talking about sins in the Shastra, it comes from a Latin or Greek, one of those words which means missing a mark. It doesn't mean bad. When they say you've done a sin, they're not telling you you're a bad person. They're saying you missed something. Now go back and try again. And we have this quality in the Shastras, Vedic and Upanishadic Shastras, that you always get a chance to perfect yourself to be better. And if you miss it in one lifetime, come back, take another lifetime. Try again, try again, try again. But unless you do it on your own, you won't have that inner sense of satisfaction. So here, when they say that he created what was called the Papa Purusha. Papa Purusha means a being of sin, made of all the sinful characteristics. So I will quickly go through what each part of his body is made up of, and don't spend time trying to understand it or to remember it, because that will take a lot of, it can confuse. So they say his head was created out of Brahma Hatya Dosha. Brahma Hatya Dosha means you are killing the consequence of killing Brahman or the creative spirit within you. His eyes are those that are drinking drugs or intoxicants. Mouth is made of stealing gold. Then the ears are the illicit relationship with Guru's wife, killing your own wife. I won't tell you each one by one, but just to remember what happens is killing your own wife, killing a cow, stealing somebody else's accumulated wealth, uh, aborting a child when it's not necessary, sex with somebody else's wife, killing your relatives, killing your dependents. You will wonder why all this killing is coming again and again and again. I too was thinking about it for a while. Boasting about yourself, offending the guru, selling your daughter, revealing confidential matters, killing the father, and smaller sins. Now, what is this killing that comes every now and then? Because it comes in every religion. Thou shalt not kill so and so. Because when we think of killing, we are thinking of something where you might behead somebody or shoot them dead. We are thinking only of the body. But in the Shastras, when you say killing, you're also meaning that you can hurt somebody else. You can lower their self-esteem. You can bring shame upon them. You can gossip about somebody. You can manipulate somebody. You can demoralize a good person. All this is an act of killing. You can even demoralize yourself, thinking you're not good enough because you're identifying constantly with your body and not with that divinity within yourself. All this is killing. In fact, even in the Isha Upanishad, they will say a person who kills himself, meaning he's killing his soul. Not that you can kill the soul. These things are not to be taken literally. The soul can never be killed. It is a fragment of the divinity, and so it is eternal. But when you say killing the soul, you're saying you're missing the mark by thinking you are the body and not the soul. So you'll have to come back to go through it again and understand what you really are. That's what they mean. So this is what is called the Papa Purusha, something that inflicts misery on people who are committing sins. So all your sins become his head, body, tail, all that. And he is there within you. He's not outside. And then he looked at the people and he realized that a lot of people um, started looking at this Papa Purusha and they were getting more and more attracted. And then because they got attracted to doing all the things that are um, said not to do, people became more and more out of control. And they started becoming miserable and suffering. So he thought to himself, I am the one who's created misery and happiness. But so much misery, I'm the master of it. So he felt sorry about it. And he said, now I must create someone who will control this personality, the Papa Purusha. That is, who will control the uh, misjudged path that we are walking on because we missed the mark. So he created Dharmaraja or Yamaraj. That's the energy of your Atma, which goes on the same journey towards its source. And when it goes there, it needs somebody or something to guide it, another consciousness. This consciousness is called Yamaraja. Yama is death, meaning death. Sorry. And Yamaraja will look at what you have done while living. Where did you miss the path? And according to whether you need to have a break and have a rest because you've struggled so much, even though you made mistakes, he might send you to what is called heaven, a place of rest and relaxation and youth, or he might send you to hell because you become so uh, absolutely unremediable. You just don't learn. No matter what difficulties thrown at you, you still continue being negative and living in a world of enlightened entitlement. expecting that the world will buckle down and do whatever you want it to do, not necessarily what you need it to do. And you grumble because you don't get what you want. So this is heaven and hell. And when he went to see Yamaraja, this is a story, you've got to see it figuratively. He heard a lot of crying. And he asked, where are these sounds coming from? And Yama said to him, these are the sinful souls in hell. You know, you don't have to go to a special place called hell. You can cry here on earth itself. That is your own personal hell. So when he heard them crying like this, he felt compassion. He said, because of me, they are all suffering. They are my children and they are suffering. And Jaimini says, to Jaimini, Vyasa says, listen to what the Lord did. Vichintya Karunamaya. That is, thinking about it with great compassion, Swayam Ekadashi Tattva Babhuva Sahasa Tatra. That is, out of himself, out of compassion to help these people who were suffering, he brought forth Ekadashi. And when the Ekadashi, now Ekadashi is 11, right? That's the meaning. Ekadashi, Dasha, 10 plus Eka, 1, 11. Now it is considered that the Prakriti, that is life around us, the material world, is constantly changing. And this constant change is removing from us when you run after the constant change, it removes from us our own chances to choose a better path. And she is designated by the number 8, Maya. That means you go running towards her, you keep losing out on something else. So in ordinary mathematics, they'll say 8 into anything is 1 less. 8 ones are 8, 8 twos are 16, 6 and 1, 7. Then the next will be 6 if you add the number. So it'll keep going down. What is it that remains steady no matter what you do? The permanent is 9. That is why you say Navadurga, Navaratri, things like that, because 9, whatever you multiply it into, it will always remain 9. 9 into 2 is 18, 8 and 1 is 9, 9 into 3, 27, 7 and 2 is 9. Like that it goes on. Then you have the understanding that God is only one. The supreme consciousness is only one. If there are two, there will be a competition. So every spiritual mystic says the same thing. If you go to Christianity, if you go to Buddhism, if you go to Islam, every religion at its source says there is only one God. Now, we have misidentified it at some time, and what we say is if there is only one God, my God is the God. But this is a laugh because there is no question of my. That means you're splitting God into mine and yours. When you start seeing God as only one, that is, he is in me, he is in my Muslim brother, he is in my Christian sister, he is in the birds, he is in the sky, he is everywhere. When you start seeing it like that, then you're moving into the kingdom of oneness. And when you move into the kingdom of oneness, you cannot hurt another because that other is part of who you are. Even scientifically, you are part of each other because we all carry the Atma, which is a portion of the supreme consciousness. So we are part of the divine. So never demoralize yourself or think of yourself in a lesser way because I had this thought and I hurt somebody, my body is not nice, someone else is looking better. You know, never underestimate yourself. You are divine in the world because the divine is everywhere, omnipresent. Okay, so now when Ekadashi, she is 11 because 1 and 0 is 10, is infinity to add as many zeros as you want. 1 0 0 0 0, it becomes infinity. the divine is infinite. That's what they're trying to say. Now, out of this divine, one more comes like him, exactly like him. That is the 11th. And this is what he created out of his own form, out of his own consciousness. He created a Shakti and a compassionate energy that will help people who are struggling because they've made mistakes. So this Ekadashi is a Devi that is called the 11th one, 10 and 1, 11. And she is the highest of all the energies in the universe. And she is the one who is responsible for bringing about the manifestation and closing the manifestation. And here, when she came on, and she was compassionate and she was constantly helping people to move out of their misguided ways and giving them a chance to change their perspectives of life, and people started becoming happy, and they did not go the wrong way. Wrong, when I mean wrong, I mean something that leads them to misery, temporary happiness. So seeing all this, what happened was Papa Purusha became worried because people are not committing sins. Where will he have a place to stay? So he goes to the divine and he says, listen, I'm your son. You are the one who made me. Now, because of this Ekadashi Ma, I'm almost destroyed. Because after I'm gone, everybody will get liberated because everybody is becoming perfect because of her. And there will be nobody to act out your leelas. Now listen to this. When you think of sins or difficulties in the world, these are games. The divine is manifesting as you. The divine is manifesting as your enemy. The divine is manifesting as your friend. The divine is in everything. It's a game for the divine, like a child plays with soldiers and robbers using the same blocks. So he has fun. Sometimes he's with the police, sometimes he's with the robbers. It's like that. It's called a Leela, a game. So he says, if you don't have duality in any form, if you don't have duality, then how will you play your Leelas? He's asking the divine. Where can I go where I can live fearlessly? And he started crying. So at this, they say, Vishnu started laughing and he says to him, I'll give you a place to stay during Ekadashi day only. On Ekadashi day, you can reside in food grains. My form as Supreme Ekadashi Devi will not bother you. So now you see, it's coming to another dimension that you've all heard or read about sometime. Because what is it, this behavior that comes from grains? Why is it that the grains would create difficulty? So you go to the Upanishad again, and the Upanishad will say, Annam Vai Brahma. That is the Annam. The grains are what is the life force. How is it? Because they will say, when you take the grains and eat them, then you get vitality for the body. Then when you get vitality for the body, you get stamina and courage, and you're not shaky. When you get stamina and courage and you're not shaky, then you're able to sit in dhyana, do sattvic actions, which will take you to a higher consciousness, because your discrimination will be better off. When your discrimination, that's your buddhi, gets better, then you're able to meditate comfortably. When you meditate, you're giving up your ego. You're saying, it's all you, my Lord. I'm nothing here. You make me do this, you make me do that. I belong to you. So at the end of every puja, you will hear them saying, Krishna Arpanam Astu. That is, I surrender everything to Krishna, or I can surrender everything to Allah, or I can surrender everything to Yahweh. It depends upon how I address the divine within me and within everybody else. So how, so this is what they're saying. The grain is what brings about even a birth of a child. Unless the man and woman who are going to be parents of a new creation in this universe, unless they have this grains to eat and get the vitality, they cannot bring forth another like themselves. So even for the whole of creation, they say that the grains are necessary. Now, when you say such a nice thing about the grains, why would you say that Ekadashi Devi will not bother you there? Papa Purusha can remain in the grains. So here they are saying, we make our own choice in life. If you eat food, say for example, looking at a violent movie, you watch it happening in children today. After the pandemic, so many of them were watching movies on the TV, and a lot of those movies are very violence oriented, and they are drawn to the violence, the children of today, because they were isolated from peer group, isolated from teachers, isolated from other people. Parents were either working in their offices or sitting at home and working, so the children were very, very alone to a large extent. They could not go out and play with other children. So what happens here? You have to see the psychology of the human mind. We always live very happily on a superficial level in life. Somebody comes and says, what a wonderful person you are, you feel so good for the rest of the day. Someone says you're so lousy and you feel miserable. But if someone says you're lousy and you feel miserable, somebody else will come and say, oh, that person didn't know actually you're a nice person. So you say, yeah, that's okay. So this is how our communication and connection with people help us to remain on a very superficial level that gives you transient happiness, happiness and misery, happiness and misery. But we will remember the misery. Now he's saying, you make a choice. If I decide that, somebody comes across on the road and says, hello, how are you? I don't know this person from Adam, and I'm looking at him suspiciously, and I'm wondering now, what does he want with me? Now, this is a negative way of thinking. You could otherwise think how nice of this person. Anyway, you're not having a long relationship. You're just meeting somebody who's wishing you well. You can always think to yourself, what a nice person, he is wishing me such a pleasant thing. That is what our digital um, communication does today. You get a WhatsApp forward about the goodness of things. Today, there was somebody sent it to me and I sent it to the group about learning more from going right down to the bottom than to the top of the mountain tops. That's true, because only when you go right down and you're aware, alert, you will realize where you made the mistake to fall down and how you can pull yourself up and go to the top. But if you're aware for negative nature, then you will make it worse by saying, okay, somebody has pushed me down. Let me pull everybody else I see down. So you go around with a glum face, making anybody tries to say nice things to you to cheer you up, you'll think to yourself, why does she want to cheer me up? She is having a good time. I'm not, so negativity can become very, very sharp. We pick up those negative vibrations. So whether we pick up the good present vibrations, the permanent vibrations, or the unpleasant vibrations will depend upon our vitality and what we are exposed to in life. So once you take a negative um, situation, or you take a too much of a positive, that also can be damaging, because what will happen, everything that happens will say, oh, this is very good, God did it for me, God did it for me. I failed in my exam, oh, God wanted me to fail because there's something good at the end of it, so I won't pick up the book and read for the next time in the exam. You see how the mind can work. It can constantly lead you astray this way or that way, because it's centered on I and my happiness, my permanent happiness. That's why it happens. So that is why they say the ego and the mind are two great friends. So if you happen to be a tamasic person, there are three gunas. And until we get out of this trap of the gunas, we will not get chitta shuddhi. That is, you won't get purity or unconditioned consciousness, something that is open to every situation in life and sees the divine in everything. So, what are these gunas? All of you know sattva, rajas, tamas. Tamas is the most negative, the rigid, the unyielding aspect of life. The rajas is the passionate aspect of life where you want this, you want that, you have a um, ambition for something, power, money, girl, boy, and you think that this thing that gives you this joy today will be uh, like that all the time, which it isn't. That's also a mistaken thing. That is rajas. But we create a lot of trouble for ourselves running after things that we think is going to give us permanent happiness when we are rajasic. And when we are sattvic, Krishna will tell you in the Bhagavad Gita itself, and which I remember Swami Satyanand saying, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. You have to be equipoised. When difficulties come, when crises come, it doesn't mean you won't suffer. You will suffer. When something very good comes, you will be happy. There is nothing wrong with feeling this and that. But what he is saying is samatvam means don't let it pull you down. Something you look at, you're suffering because of some great tragedy, you witness it. You say, okay, so the mind is suffering because of this tragedy, but my soul is not suffering. Because where is the soul? The soul is in the witnessing. I am witnessing, and that witnessing time is neither this nor that. It's not suffering, it's not over happy also. So they will tell you that here, and we'll keep it for another day, how bhakti or guru bhakti will help you become more and more witnessing and having vairagya. So you have to go beyond the gunas, triguna, and that is what Krishna tells Arjuna also. He tells him, go beyond the gunas, go beyond the gunas. How do you go beyond? You say, how can I prevent being unhappy? He doesn't say, don't be unhappy. You are unhappy, but watch it with a discerning buddhi. Okay, I'm crying today because I lost something, but am I going to have it forever and ever? Some time I will lose it. I lost my childhood, I've become a youth. I lost my youth, I've become an old person. I will lose this old body also, and I will maybe die. Not maybe, I'll definitely die. And then I will lose the death and I'll come back again, or maybe not. So none of this is permanent. There's no point sitting around and, you know, lot of people I see today killing themselves over a diet just so their skin looks nice and smooth and they have a good physical shape. Nothing wrong with that. It's very good. Look after your body. But don't get so obsessed with being so good looking or being so wealthy or being so powerful that you miss your way in life and lose it sometime, because everything is temporary. So this is the sort of thing that happens. So we make the choice, they say, depending on the food we eat. The food we eat and in what circumstances we eat that food. Are you eating old decayed food and allowing fungus to grow in your stomach? Or are you eating very sharp, pungent food which simply revs up your passions or your sensitivities like anger, fear, and such things? Or are you eating healthy, home cooked food which will be fresh? That is more sattvic, so you don't get worried this way or that way. So, and this has been done with a lot of research that they've done, seeing which sort of food is associated with a comfortable stomach and a comfortable mind. Okay, now when I've come to this, then he created Ekadashi Devi, who helps the people on the path by not eating grains on Ekadashi Day. Now I have to tell you something about the modern um, the contemporary scientific research that is going on in different areas. And one of these areas is where they are talking about intermittent fasting. Even for people who have cancer and such things, I say intermittent fasting will help you heal better. And we had this Ekadashi is an intermittent fasting, and we have other days on which people fast on a regular basis. So what happens here? So what they are saying is, when you have an intermittent fasting going on, like for example on Ekadashi days, they have found that it changes the activity of the bacteria in your stomach, gut. And that increases the ability to recover from brain damage. Because now, if your brain is damaged, as far as we know, there isn't anything to help. That is why a mentally retarded child, for example, the cells are damaged and the child can never grow beyond that IQ. You can only give that child something that he can do, he or she, with that amount of IQ they have. You can't expect them to go up and run a country as a president or something, unless everyone else is uh, demented also. Now, when you so how does brain damage healing help the individual? So what these people did was, it was done in some university in London, Imperial University. They got a whole lot of mice. And with this mice, what they did, they divided them into two groups. And one group, they gave them as much food as they wanted, whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, they could eat. And the other group, they gave them intermittent fasting. That is, they gave specific food at some time, and then they did not feed them for a certain time, even when they wanted. And then they examined them. Now, what they did was, before doing this intermittent fasting research, they found I don't know whether they did it or it happened by itself, but the um, sciatic nerve in the mice was crushed. Now, so many of us get sciatica. You get a pain going down your legs when the sciatic nerve is pressed by your spinal cord. In the mice, this is the longest nerve that is going down from the spinal cord down to the legs. So if you see, there will be a picture that Shivani will put on the in front of you on the screen. It is of a axon. An axon is a brain cell. You see this blue thing, you see this line-like things going around. The axon is that shiny thing in the middle, and the lines that are going across are like tails. It's like little snakes they would be. And these axons of the neuron, the round thing is the neuron, and the axon is the tail sort of thing. And these axons are responsible for communicating to every cell in the human body about what is happening, from one axon to the other, one axon to the other, like that. They send signals to other cells in the body. And they find that when the mice did intermittent fasting, there was a production of a metabolite that was called 3-indo, maybe that indole propionic acid. That's right, indole propionic acid, IPA 3. And that is required for generating a nerve cell. And they found that when they did intermittent fasting, this thing was secreted so much that within a short time, the fasting mice regrew the axons by 50%, which means that nerve cell is becoming alive and it is able to communicate to every other cell in the body. That means every cell is getting regenerated. So there are people who are now trying to use intermittent fasting even in cancer cases where a lot of healing goes in because the nerve cells are being positive and telling the other cells, I am with you, carry on, heal yourself. Like I'm healed, you can heal yourself the same way. So this is happening. And rarely they would do surgery on the brain for regenerating a nerve cell, but it's very, very difficult. And so it's a very great breakthrough, because if it is found to be just as good in with greater research, it is something that can stop Alzheimer's disease. It can cure people who have a lot of other problems with the brain and with the body muscular degeneration and things like that. So even on the physical aspect, it's very good. So now, having said that, I'm going to finish this part and go to the next part. That is, who exactly is this Ekadashi? Now, in the Shastra, in every Shastra for that matter, they say that there is the divine, the supreme consciousness, which is like a substratum of everything that is happening on it. It manifests as something, it draws back the manifestation. The the way they explain it is, it's like a spider that spits out its own saliva and then makes the web. And then after some time, it takes that whole web back into itself. So this is something like they give you an example to show you how the Supreme, out of his own consciousness, creates the entire manifestation. And he draws it all back into himself at a time called Pralaya. But we are not coming to Pralaya just yet. I'm telling you who is this energy of this consciousness. When something is moving and something is active, it is called Shakti. And there is what is called the Adi Shakti or Parvati, which is the dynamic energy and force, intelligent force of the supreme consciousness. Out of this Adi Shakti, is called Adi Shakti because the first Shakti it means. Out of that Adi Shakti is born from the eyes of Vishnu. That is, he creates this big dream, this illusion. And this is the Shakti that is helps him to slay Madhu and Kaitaba. This is called the Yoga Maya. Now, he has to kill Madhu and Kaitaba. She has put him into sleep, his Shakti. In other words, when you go to sleep yourself, sometimes you can't prevent it. You're sitting and then you just drop off to sleep. You can't fight sleep. What is happening? Yoga Nidra is coming into you. The Yoga Maya is coming into you and putting it to sleep. And she does the same thing with Vishnu, and he goes off to sleep. So when Madhu and Kaitaba come and they want to fight to kill Vishnu, because it's out of the wax of his ears that they've come out, so they want to go back and kill the source. It is she who helps him to kill Madhu and Kaitaba by withdrawing from his body and waking him up. So this is what will happen after 4 months, Chaturmas, where the gods wake up from sleep. So she is, which makes Vishnu himself obey her. You know, you're very strong, decided about doing something. Look at this tribal girl who is going to be your next president, by and large, in this country. That is the determination that somebody has, that I'm not going to be sitting and washing vessels all my life. I'm going to go up there and do some good to people. This is Shakti, the Shakti within you that is pushing you to become something. So she drives you against your own wanting to sit back and, why should I do all that? Why not just wash a few vessels, get some money, go eat some bread and be done with it? No, she gives you something more. So this Shakti becomes Yogamaya and she makes Vishnu himself obey her. Now, this Yogamaya. You can see her when he wakes up. She is standing there, and she has all the astras. Astras are weapons, tools that the creator, the creative energy, the sustaining force, and the dissolving force that are called Brahma, Vishnu, Shakti. All of them have these tools. She has a chakra, if you see, on her right upper hand. She has the arrow of discrimination. She has the bow of the mind. And like this, she has so many aspects. And she's saying, I'm ready to listen to what you need me to do. But at the same time, she's saying, I will do what you want me to do, but you've got to cooperate with me completely. So there's a synchronicity so much between the supreme consciousness and the energy that comes out that you do not think of them as two beings. She is he when she is silent and quiet. He is she when she is active. So they are one force, and this is Yoga Maya, and this is the energy that you call Ekadashi. Now, she can control many things. Next to her is Mahamaya. Mahamaya is needed for physical strength and health, and she helps people in removing lust, anger, greed, attachment, arrogance. She is also under the hands of Yoga Maya because Mahamaya is there in everyone's life. Yoga Maya opens herself up when you become a yogi. That is, you're struggling, you're on the path. You don't sit back and say, okay, she'll come and help us out. So this is called this another part is called Mahamaya, and Yoga Maya is called Yoga Nidra Mahakali, Kaitabi, because she helps to kill Kaitaba. Vishnu Madhusudana, because he kills another demon called Madhu. And wherever she helps, wherever he goes, that supreme consciousness goes as an avatar. She will follow as his energy that is inspiring him, putting the life force into him and making him act, do what is necessary, what he has come for. And everybody is an avatar. Please remember, everybody, even sitting here outside, everybody is an avatar because you are a fragment of the divine. And everybody has come for a very specific purpose. We have not come here just to get a few votes and become the, a minister or to become a great businessman. All those are side things. They are not bad. They are good because they help you to expand. For example, a businessman will expand to see the welfare of his employees. Now he has made himself, his Atma or his soul is moving into synchronizing with the souls of his employees. And when he does it like that, he is expanding himself, his soul, until he understands the whole universe is one soul. So this Yoga Maya is called Durga, Vaishnavi, Vijaya, Maya, Narayani, Sharada, Ambika, Chandika. You hear of the Chandi part? This is that Devi, Krishna, Kumuda. She is the inherent power of Vishnu. So when you're talking about 11 here, remember I told you about the numbers 10 and 111. You're talking about 5. When you go deeper, you're actually talking about 5 karmendriyas and 5 jnanendriyas. Jnanendriyas are the organs of perception. Karmendriyas are the organs that act. What are the organs of perception? You all know it. Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, these things, smelling, the nose, eyes, ears. They have to be kept pure in the sense that they have to see reality. They cannot run after an illusion. So she is the illusion in life also, because without her, you cannot have this great Leela going on. So she is called Yoga Maya, and she is the 11th one, the 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas, and the mind. She can be Bhoga Maya, that is, if she goes running, she will give you such an illusion that will make your ego so excited that you will go and run into something that, there is a saying that fools rush in where angels fear to tread. When you just see something, you want to jump into it impulsively, and then you don't realize you burnt yourself. So that also is Maya. And she is Vidya Maya, Avidya Maya, and Vidya Maya. Yoga Nidra is Vidya Maya, Yoga Maya, because she gives you the difficulty and she helps you to uh, find your way out of it with knowledge. Knowledge is not academic knowledge, it is experiencing life. So she is the 11th one here. And this is what I meant when I said 11. 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas plus the mind. And the mind can be manas, which is logical, impulsive, all that, or it can also be buddhi, which is highly discriminative and intuitive and moving into a higher dimension of consciousness. Now, then, we are coming to the next part of the 5 plus 4, I told you. That was a topic, I think, just came out of the top of my head. 4 is for Chaturmas. The minute you move into the second half of the year is divided into two, Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. I'll tell you a little about that later. But these 4 months of Chaturmas, if you add it to the 11, it becomes 15. 15 is the Panchadashi mantra. So she's called the Panchadashi. Panchadashi is the Devi, the Divine Mother who plays with you and who at the same time helps you to move out of it and understand that you are the auspicious Divine Mother who is within you. And you are not just the physical body that is wandering around like a shoe that you put on your feet or like a car that you are driving. You're not the car, you're not the shoe. No. Again, in another story in the Bhagavatam, which we are not going into now, there is a Devi called, there is a demoness called Putana who comes to kill Krishna as a baby, and um, she comes on Ekadashi day, because here they say Eka and Dashi, wherever the 5 jnanendriyas and 5 karmendriyas and the mind, the inferior mind, manas, is there, you will always have sin. That is, you will always be missing the mark. You will be running after something attractive or tempting without having the discrimination to realize what actually is the right thing for me to do. So, wherever Ekadashi is there, there is a chance of going the wrong way. And that is why you are warned to fast and think, reflect on what you've been doing the rest of the 15 days to say, did I do something right? Did I do something wrong? Not to flagellate yourself, but to find out what can I do to not make that mistake the next time, so that I will be a more compassionate person who becomes more and more like the mother. Now let's come to Deva Shayini. Why do they say Vishnu or God sleeps? If he sleeps, what happens to the world? So here, when they say the god Shayanam is sleeping, what they mean is that he does not sleep. He practices Yoga Nidra, or he is in Yoga Nidra. And what is Yoga Nidra? Yoga Nidra means turning inwards. You're giving up the external manifestation, your interest in the external manifestation, and you are going inwards. This is what every person does when you practice, should do when you practice Yoga Nidra. It means turning inwards. He doesn't lose consciousness. He observes all the activities of creation when he is there. Just like in Yoga Nidra, you are seeing, if I say visualize an apple, you're not only visualizing an apple, you're remembering Isaac Newton, how it fell on his head. You're imagining thoughts of how you ate an apple, which is very good, and which apple is best that you have to eat, and do you make it into apple pie or do you just eat it? All these things will come into your mind when you just visualize something. So in the same way, he is closing his eyes in Yoga Nidra and he is looking at the whole of creation within himself. And he is giving a clue to the jiva also, the person's individual self, that you too can do the same thing, because all creation exists within me. That's what he's saying. If I can do it, so can you. Go inwards and don't just stay with the superficialities of life. So this is the Shayanam that he does. And this is a time that is called the regeneration of everything in the universe. Now we'll come to Chaturmas itself. This is the same thing. He's sleeping, he's in Yoga Nidra. Now in Chaturmas, you will find there are 4 months starting with Dakshinayana. The difference between, this is the same thing, the difference between Uttarayanam and Dakshinayanam is, Uttarayanam is somewhere middle of January, where the sun moves towards the north. It's a long, bright, sunny days follow. It belongs to the gods, that period of time, because it's their daytime. Flowering happens, spring is there with Vasant Panchami. And with Dakshinayana, it is when the sun goes into the south and moves into Cancer, that um, what do you call it? The zodiac. And Cancer, it, they say the days become shorter, it becomes wet, dark, sad, it as if the crab is eating the sunlight. This is called the time of the Daityas. Daitya means children of Diti, or the divided souls. That is, you don't see the totality, you only see yourself and somebody else as different beings. This is the Dakshinayana time. Why Dakshinayana? Because Dakshina space is towards the south, which is the Yama's place. So you will identify with death when you are dividing all your fellow creatures in your mind. As against, if you are seeing everything as one and everybody as part of yourself, you will start being a little more compassionate and kinder, and you will make the world a better place. So these are the two different aspects. We are moving into Chaturmas or the Dakshinayana. Now, what is very interesting here is, during this period of Dakshinayana, the 4 months of Chaturmas, remember that the Lord is turning inwards in Yoga Nidra. So what happens in Yoga Nidra? In the beginning, everything is like a honeymoon. No, you see the grass and you see the flowers and you see the sun on the mountain tops looking orange and all. That is very nice. Then when you go on doing Yoga Nidra and it moves into a meditative state, you get Pratyahara. When your thoughts are all not superficial, you're going to deeper and deeper into yourself. And what is deeper in yourself are those difficulties that you have hidden and repressed. So when you go into deeper states of Yoga Nidra, in the beginning, you can have very scary experiences, unpleasant experiences, uncomfortable experiences, things that you never thought you could even think about. Suddenly you'll get mad, you feel like, you see people going and beheading somebody, or going and shooting somebody. The other day, the Japanese prime minister was just shot by somebody who had some idea that what they say is that his mother went into poverty because she followed a particular, some religion, and he thought this prime minister was associated with that religious cult. He didn't check, he didn't find out, he didn't know why his mother lost her job, why she became poverty stricken. He didn't find out why he became a dropout. He just had this tremendous negativity inside, which covered all the logic in his mind, took out a gun and shot somebody. So this happens when you lose your positivity, you're witnessing, and you're turning inwards more and more, and you see the scary parts of yourself, that's called your dark areas, coming up. If you're not a witness, you can act according to it. And when you act according to it, you can be in a great deal of trouble. So what do we do? This thing season starts with Ashada. And what starts with Ashada? The Guru Purnima. You remember the Guru. Who's your Guru? The Guru is the one sitting in your Atma. That is the inner Guru. that is awakened by the outer Guru. So you start with remembering the Guru, and then people move into wanting to do something serious about themselves, not just go on a all the time a continuous superficial life. Then you start thinking about fasting and abstaining from um, too much of sensory pleasures. You don't have to give it all up, but you have a sense of proportion in life. And then next, what happens? Snakes are worshipped because it comes with Nagar Panchami, the next festival. Many festivals come here and they're all meaningful. Nagar Panchami, why are you worshipping snakes? Because the snakes that turn this side and that side, go like this, the Kundalini, that snake is the figure represents your DNA. DNA is the genetic material that you bring into yourself generation after generation after generation. And what should that genetic stuff be like? You have a chance to change it. Change it now. Don't go along the same path. This is what they're saying. That is what the Guru is telling you inside. Then they say, followed by Rakhi. Raksha Bandhan is the festival where the sisters would care for you. So you're asking him or to you to go on the right path, protect you not from an outer danger, but from your own inner dangers. Don't let me make a mistake of going the wrong way, because the sibling is more like your peer group in that sense. And then you go to the Bhadrapada the next month. Ganesha comes because you get the um, Ganapati festival. And what does Ganesha emphasize? Ganesha is sitting inside you. He's not out there. He's sitting inside you and helping you with your inner attitudes and thoughts to prevent you from moving in the wrong direction, thereby removing your obstacles. So when you come to the Ganesha festival, remember you are worshipping something inside you, that Ganesha inside you, and saying, please do not let me make mistakes. Do not make, because if I make a mistake, the whole universe will come and help me making that mistake. So if you cut out the mistake within me, then the whole universe will stay back from pushing me into the wrong direction. This is Ganapati. And then we dissolve the Ganapati in water, meaning that when you dissolve the Ganapati in water, you are realizing that everything is transient, nothing is permanent. So just because I'm a good person today, I'm kind, does not mean I'm going to be kind tomorrow. If I'm steady today, does not mean I'll be steady. I have to be constantly watching my inner self. This is Yoga Nidra, constantly watching. And then after that, you get the Pitru Paksha. Pitru Paksha is where you are thinking of, like All Souls Day, you're thinking of the ancestors who have gone before you and what a wealth they have given to us. The brain itself, the physical body, we could have been a worm somewhere in some place stamped by, an elephant or a dog or something like that, but they've given you a body, they've given us a mind. This is the ancestral treasure, and a mind that can move into a spiritual side, a mind that can become divine. All this comes from the ancestors, and so we are grateful to them. This is what your DNA molecules are all about, the samskara, we say. And then we have, following that, a harvest comes. Demons are killed. Where are the demons? All within us, not outside. And then Diwali comes with Lakshmi Puja. Lakshmi means the prosperity, fertility of life, the good things of life. Now the night is slowly becoming dawn. And then you have the Prabodhini Ekadashi, where Vishnu wakes up and joins with Lakshmi, that is with prosperity and health and happiness and all that. So that last part of the night is also called the Brahma Muhurta, early morning. Therefore, Margashirsha, or the December time, the month before Uttarayanam is called the Brahma Muhurta of time. So then now we have this, and then I wanted to tell you this little bit about the Chaturmas. It's called the time of penance, the Dakshinayana. So this is the time when you have to go inwards, Nididhyasana, watch yourself, try to see how you behave when you do good deeds, non-good deeds, like that, and then regenerate your mind and your brain so that when you come out into the world, you're a better and more refined person because of facing all the shadows inside your mind, not the pleasures on the external world. And now coming to the next chapter, next portion, we'll be finishing it soon, is Pralaya. Now, Pralaya means a time when all manifestation is dissolved into the source. So people say, when is Pralaya coming, the end of the world and stuff like that. But there are 4 types of Pralaya. One is your Nitya Pralaya. Nitya Pralaya is like when you see a person dying. Generally, that is, he dies, meaning he leaves his body and his consciousness carries on to another birth. This is Nitya Pralaya. Then you have a Naimitika Pralaya. Um, Naimitika Pralaya is, let me come to that a little later, because let me get it simpler. You then have the Atyantika Pralaya, that is, if you become liberated through spiritual understanding and knowing that you're able to give up the ego, and you see the extinguishing of your body and your mind while alive sometimes, and continue with the higher consciousness. This is what great saints and sadhus do. You must have heard stories. And this is Krishna being carried by his father the day he was born on Ashtami day. He was carried across the Yamuna river. Yamuna is a sister of Yama, and on to a place where the next day, Navami, that is the 9th day, Vishnu Maya is born as a person, as a child, and he is exchanged with her, and she is carried back to where his biological father, who is carrying him, takes him there, and she creates a lot of miracles there. This maybe sometime if you read the Bhagavatam, or if I talk to you about the Bhagavatam, or if I have talked to you, would know this is the thing. This is how the person crosses the ocean of suffering and misery that we think the world is made up of, and goes to the other shore and exchanges the avidya maya for the vidya maya. He's sleeping, he doesn't know, he's just playing around. So then this is the Atyantika Pralaya. Then you have 2 more Pralayas, which is called Prakritika, and that is, now you have to say the timings. And this is where I will also read a little, because I'm no good in numbers. First of all, you have the day and night human beings. That's 1 day and 1 night. When you are of a higher dimension, you're a devata or a higher, more elevated soul, then 365 days, a year becomes a day and a night of the devata. So that is why they say Uttarayanam, half is when he's awake and he sleeps during Dakshinayana, because that is the night where these daityas or the demons are free. And now you have 4 yugas, timelines in life through manifestation: Satya Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara, and Kali Yuga. We are now in Kali Yuga. So when you have all these 4 together, it is called one Chatur Yuga. One Chatur Yuga, if you have 1,000 such Chatur Yugas, then you have 1 day of Brahma. That is when everything dissolves into itself. That is when you have that sort of a pralaya, then you have the each Panchabhuta dissolving into the next one. The earth dissolving into the water, water dissolving into the fire, fire into the air, air into space, space into the source of where you started from. And in this, what happens is you realize when this is what people do in Samadhi, you realize that your body might be changing, moving, but your Atma is eternal. The timelessness in you, that is the Atma in you, is timeless. It's not controlled by time. It is aware of the timelessness of entire life, that everything is going to go back and come back again. It doesn't get destroyed. And as Khalil Gibran will say, he says, such a person knows that yesterday is but today's memory and tomorrow is today's dream. So now you will say, when Vishnu is sleeping, the sustaining force is sleeping, who takes over his job for these 4 months? It is Rudra. Rudra is an aspect of Shiva. Shiva is the supreme consciousness, and Rudra is the one that eliminates everything. So here is Vishnu telling Shiva, please come as Rudra and take over my duties, because there are so many demons to be killed and people's, where are the demons inside us? He has to come and eliminate all the negativity within us during these 4 months. And Shiva comes and does it. In fact, in a place near Bangalore called Sholingapuram, you have a deity, the lion-faced aspect of Vishnu, and down below is another temple where Hanuman takes over the duties, because Hanuman is an avatar of Rudra. That is why he comes in and he sets fire to Lanka. He can do what most other energies cannot do. So this is what you need to know about Ekadashi. Remember, Ekadashi, it's intermittent fasting at the grossest level. You see how it helps the brain to heal itself and to heal the body. Then you remember the story in which the divine creates, manifests everything, and then manifests the wrong that has happened, the vibrations that are not in order. Just like a painting, you start a painting, the first thing is not perfect. Then you have to refine it. So then Papa Purusha is created, and then you have Yama coming in, and then you have the Yoga Maya coming in. This is the energy, the Yoga Nidra energy. And this is Yoga Maya, who is the energy of the divine. His soul is her soul. His super soul is her super soul. And she is who is called the mother, the divine Shakti, who is a compassionate divine mother in every person. You have the choice of modeling after the divine mother, or you can model after the great demons. But it's a little painful to model after the demons, because you'll be going to the same source, because we are all inside one divinity. And that divinity is within us also. We are going to the same source, but if you are a demon, then you will be miserable and go through. If you are doing good deeds, then you will go on an easier path. And by doing that, you become more and more like the Divine Mother herself. You get her qualities in you, such as compassion, love, kindness to other people, selflessness. All this comes about. And all this is the teaching of Shining Ekadashi. Has it been too much?
No, Swamiji, not at all.
Okay. So we
Swamiji,
can just, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So why is Papa Purusha asked to stay in the food?
Because if you take the food, you will take Papa Purusha in with you that day. In other words, if you're a sattvic person, you can go without food. Now, they don't say if you're ill and you have medical problems or you're old, you got to, they don't say hurt your body. They're saying just keep away from nice, nice full food on that day, so that it um, can, you don't get in touch with Papa Purusha. Supposing you in the old days, imagine Ekadashi, everybody is fasting. But I suddenly feel a taste for going and eating a, what shall I say, a burger or something. So where do I have to go? I have to go to a hotel nearby. If it was like today, when I go to the hotel, I'm moving up in a group of people I don't know. People, there might be people with envy. There might be a cook who would have cooked with great sadness because of something tragedy in his house. All these vibrations come in my food, no? So I will eat it. I'll come back happily home. I might have a stomach upset the next day and things like that. But if you're Sattvic, you'll say, okay, one day I won't eat food. That's okay. And somebody else will at least get that food that I will not be eating. That's what Swamiji used to say, that if you give up one meal, somebody else can have that meal. It teaches you to be selfless. It teaches you to stay on fruits and nuts and things like that on that day. It tells you to eat light food so that you're not making your body heavy and preventing your physical body itself from renewing itself. It's like anything, no, computer or a tape recorder or whatever. You have to give it a break and you have to have a maintenance done one day, or an AC. If you go on working it in as much as its capacity can be, it will break down sooner. So they put in this, and you'll find that a whole lot of spiritual or religious activities are centered around the physical body also and the mental body, because the physical and the mental body is your vehicle in which the soul is driving. The soul has to have a healthy vehicle to move in, to go to different places. So that is why they say don't eat grain on that day.
Thank you so much. And what is this Panchadashi mantra?
Panchadashi mantra is the mantra of Devi. Remember, Swamiji occasionally, when you go to Mangar, gives you a little Sri Yantra pendant.
Yes, Swamiji.
That is about the Divine Mother and Sri Yantra. And with the Sri Yantra, you do the mantra, the Panchadashi mantra to start with. And this picture was so beautiful. So I said, we have to get it in. This is Yogamaya. This is Ekadashi Ma. So any other questions you want to ask?
Anybody else, whoever wants to ask, can unmute or raise their hand. And
Hari Om Swamiji.
Yeah, Hari Om. What's up?
Kartavya Sheila from Uruguay.
Okay.
Uruguay.
Okay.
I want to say thanks to you because all this you shared is so important for us. We are not in India, so we should all of us understand the importance of Ekadashi in our lives. Hari Om.
Yeah,
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
Hari Om. You don't have to be in India. You know, your soul is here. Our souls are there. Our souls have no separation. We are all one consciousness. We just use this time and space to say this is a divided mind. You know, we'll say I'm so and so. That person is so and so. Then you get an identity. Then you say I'm Dharmakiti. You're so and so. Then you say I'm an Indian. Somebody is from Uruguay. Then you say you're this part of the world, that part of the world. Then we have a fight between ourselves, like Ukraine and Russia. Then you'll say, this is my enemy, that is a friend. None of this is a permanent thing. What we are is, you're a soul, I am a soul, everybody else here is a soul. We are all together, fragments like jigsaw puzzles. You know, when you put the pieces together, it becomes one picture. When you put all of us together and our hearts together, it becomes the divine.
Yes.
So you are part of who all of us are, wherever you're born or live.
Thank you. You are right. Thank you.
Ji, Hari Om Tat Sat Ji, this is
That's it,
Punita.
Punita, tell me.
Ji, I would like you to hear something more about this Chaturmata Vrata.
Huh.
What do you do those for that Chaturmata? What's the importance of that? Now you told that, but
oh, it's a time of
வந்து
looking inwards. It's a time of penance. So you eat simple homemade food and not very foods that will excite your mind. And you, every day when you practice your japa or whatever has been given to you, sit in dhyanam, you remember that you are not the physical body or the mind. And you are something which is divine inside. A divinity is within you. Remember that and go searching for it. It is there. We don't see it because we are conditioned with so many things. When you sit, when the mind becomes slower and slower and it starts resting, that whatever's inside will come out. That's something which has come out. You offer it to the divine. You say, no, either you can say, oh, I'm offering it to Chandi, I'm offering it to Durga, I'm offering it to Krishna, I'm offering anybody, any divine name you can give. That divinity will take it and then subsequently guide you. What to do next, what to do next. It's just a period of penance and fasting and eating simple food without onion, without garlic, meaning that if you are to do that vrata, meaning that you don't eat high proteins, you don't eat high how do you say, pungent stuff. Just go on an equanimous way, spicy things, and go on an equanimous way, eating something light means don't let your food be your obsession. Should I eat this? Should I sit facing north? None of this thing should be obsession. You know, when Buddha was there, his disciples they were asked to take food only from one house. And they had to go begging for that food, and they will, whatever is given to them, they have to eat. Otherwise, go hungry. So one day, one of his disciples was walking and he got food. As he was going home, one eagle was flying above. He dropped a piece of meat in his food. So he was very, very upset. That whole day he was thinking and thinking and thinking, and he couldn't meditate, he couldn't do anything. Then Buddha called him and asked him, why are you so disturbed? He said, oh, today I had this meat was dropped into my food. I couldn't eat my food, and I was so upset about it. And Buddha asked him, did you ever think of the higher consciousness? You were what? Constantly meditating on that piece of meat. So Buddha changed the entire food menu of the Buddhist tradition, and he said that once a week people should eat meat. Not because meat is good or bad, but because he wanted to, at that time, for that disciple and for similar disciples, get them out of this obsession with food and rituals. You don't understand the ritual, you don't understand the food, but you want to do exactly what is said in this and this and this. Somebody's standing on one leg. Can you stand on one leg? We can't stand on one leg, but they're telling you something more. They're saying, be steady, stay with one goal in life. That's what they mean by standing on one leg. See, so like this, you have to see what is the spirit, not the literal words that they are saying. The spirit is use this 4 months. It is a month. 4 months is not only for the human being, it can be disturbing. It can be for nature also. This is a time when you have heavy rain, you have floods, sometimes earthquakes. A lot of negative meaning unpleasant things happen in the world. So they are saying, don't go running around here and there. Sit in one place, don't travel. So the rishis would all sit in one place. They would not travel during Chaturmas. And if they had any food, it will be simple food that they will get from the trees, and whatever they have got, they won't run around looking for spices and all that. Go equanimous. It also makes you feel very equanimous inside in your mind. So that's what they mean. And that is what you have to follow. You cannot follow many of these things unless you are either living in an ashram where the Guru gives you permission to do it. Or you're all by yourself in a cave or something like that, and you're going to do that sort of a tapasya, then you can follow everything in it. Otherwise, they're giving you a direction. Don't make anything an obsession, the ritual or the ceremony or even the mantra. If you have any obsession, let it be an obsession about the inner Guru, the divinity within you and in everybody else. Let that be an obsession if you need to. That's what they're saying.
Swamiji, there's a
Thank you.
question from
Yes.
Janardhan.
Ah,
Can you repeat the 4 grains, please?
4 grains.
Yeah.
The grains are what you eat naturally in your main food for lunch. For example, like rice, wheat, millet. We call something ragi here. Any of these grains which we use as a staple food. We make bread out of it. We make rice, we boil rice and make it. It is that sort of thing that they are saying. Don't have a fully nutritional meal, a staple meal. Have something light. I'm glad to know Janardhan is here. Old friend Janardhan, you started a lot by taking me to Chidambaram. You really don't know what you started.
Hari Om, Swamiji. Thank you very much to you. Thank you very much to you. Chidambaram was very significant for you,
Yes,
for me, and for Lakshmi. Very, very important. Thank you for
yes,
that.
and for the ashram also, and many, many things and many people. Chidambaram was very important.
Good. Hari Om. Thank
Very
you.
open.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Yeah,
This is Shweta Padma here.
yeah, sure.
My respects to you. I had a question about the Brahma Muhurta, with the term that you used for the month of December. Could you kindly, Margashisha, can you kindly just elucidate that a little bit if you have the time?
Yeah, if you have the time, I have all the time. You've run past the time, but I'll say it in a brief way. When you say that the day is Uttarayanam for the Devatas, and the whole the night is half the year, which is the Dakshinayanam, which starts from like Guru Purnima onwards. It will go on till January 15th when the sun comes into the northern side. So during that period, it's called night, and the night has 4 praharas. That is, it's divided into 4 aspects: the early part of the night, middle part of the night, which is the more middle you go into the center of the night. Second and third parts, they are more, they say, inhabited by demons. What do they mean by demons here is that our inhibitions go in our sleep and dreams. We will act out all the things that we don't want to be doing in real life generally. You know, you get angry with somebody, you want to shoot them, you'll shoot them, or they'll shoot you in your dream or whatever it is. So these are the thoughts and vibrations that will come at that time. And when they are all expunged, you know, it comes out and it goes. If you're a witnesser of your dreams, you say, oh, so I had all these negative things inside, things I repressed, let it go, let it go, let it go. If you practice like that, a time will come when your mind will become pure. That's the time called Brahma Muhurta, early morning, where people say now there are no demons. It's a very auspicious time because all the gods are waking up at that time. So this comes around November, December. And then January, the day starts full. So that is why you have so many gentle festivals in the time of Margashirsha, that month, December. And it is the time when saints call it as the Brahma Muhurta, because they say the soul is waking up to the world with a new way of looking at the world. You know, I'm born and I'm renewed and I see the world differently, not the way I did when I went in and slept. That okay?
Is that a auspicious time to leave the body?
Yes, the time to leave the body is auspicious anytime, number one. Number two is you don't decide when you can leave your body unless you have been a yogi of a certain caliber and you have gone into samadhi and many such situations. Other than that, you cannot decide when you will leave the body. It is already decided for you. It even physiologically, they say that when somebody is born, you carry a certain number of breaths that you have. It's already recorded. Then that will tell you when, how many years you will live and when you're going to leave the body. You can only handle this time if you go beyond beyond time. When you move into timelessness, that is samadhi. If you're a person in samadhi, you are outside, your consciousness is outside of time and space. So you can decide when you will leave the body. Otherwise, it's not possible. Committing suicide is not a decision to leave the body that way. The disturbed soul will still be around for a while. But if somebody spontaneously happens to die in that time, that is when you have Vaikunta Ekadashi, where they say all the doors to heaven are opened. I mean, that's just a literal way of saying it. What they mean is that you're not, you're moved into Brahma Muhurta, means it's not just the time, your consciousness has become the purified time. And you're moving into a situation where you're closest to the divine that you can ever be. So it's easy to let your body go. But if you're such a saint, then you are beyond time. Whenever you leave the body, you are there. And you know, when you're in the body also, the divine is with you. You have to remember that.
Thank you, Swamiji.
You're welcome. So I think we'll stop here.
Yeah. Thank you,
Chant
Swamiji.
Chant Om, and remember that you always carry the divine within you, and he is carrying you also. He or she, both are the same, no gender for the soul. So now we'll just chant Om 3 times. Breathe in. Om. Hari Om Tat Sat. I should have told you one more thing, and I'll say it now. When you go back into that stage of samadhi, and everything gets dissolved, and there is one complete joining of every Shakti together as one point, and that point is called Durga. That's why you have Durga Chandi Homa around this time. So remember that Durga is within you, Jesus is within you, Allah is within you. There is nothing, nowhere that the divine is not. So you're a very precious being, and take yourself that way. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om Tat
And I
Sat.
also wanted to say that
Om Tat Sat, Swamiji. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Ekadashi,
Hari Om Tat Sat, Hari Om Tat Sat. That's
this
how you say.
Ekadashi, Swamiji.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Today's Ekadashi,
Hari Om
yes. I know
Swamiji.
Ekadashi. Hari Om Tat Sat. So
Um,
nice to hear
I-
all your.
Yes.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
I was just saying that it is also Tattva Shuddhi that we practice on Ekadashi, Swamiji, many times.
Yes, yes.
And also on the full moon day. So
Yes.
this was very close to Tattva Shuddhi, what you were talking about. It is.
Tattva in actuality.
Yes,
When
in actuality.
in actuality, when your physical body, you cremate or put it in the water or on the earth, it dissolves into your, it gives up the body feeling. The consciousness moves into the water. Water is fluid. If you're burnt, it moves into the fire. Otherwise, it gets heated in the earth itself if you're buried. Then the fire tattva comes. Then the fire tattva leaves become like wind everywhere. You're moving into people's breath. That is why they say you go sit near the samadhi of a guru or somebody of that or Shirdi or something. His breath is there. That is still, his prana is still there, they say. You know, that's what they mean. So the prana is still there and you move into that prana. Then if you are highly evolved, then beyond that prana, you can go into the space where everything else, the prana goes into space everywhere, no? Same breath I'm breathing, somebody in Atlanta is breathing, somebody in Uruguay is breathing. We are all breathing the same breath, not separate amounts. So then from there we go into space, and from space you go into the Divine Mother and you dissolve. That dissolving is called Shanti Durga.
Beautiful.
Very interesting, no? Many of these things.
Very, very interesting and very profound, Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Thank you so much. It was
Thank you
really
so much.
enlightening.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you for being there.
Thank you so much, Swamiji, for your time. Beautiful.
My time.
Thank you, Swamiji. It's been a long time. I haven't heard your voice in such a long time. It's such a blessing.
I know. Thank
Hari
you.
Om.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Swamiji. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you very much.
Hari Om. Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om Swamiji, thank you
Hari
so
Om.
much. It was wonderful.
It was wonderful for me to hear all your voices after a long, long time.
Hari Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om Tat Sat.